The 10 most courageous women of the Bible. In this exciting video, we will explore the extraordinary world of female courage portrayed in the sacred scriptures. Throughout the centuries, the Bible introduces us to a gallery of fearless women who defied conventions, faced adversities, and demonstrated exceptional strength in crucial moments. Get ready for a journey full of surprises and admiration as we unravel the stories of the 10 most courageous women of the Bible. Number 10. Mihal. Mihal emerges as a brave and loyal figure, whose determination is often overlooked. As the daughter of King Saul and wife of David, her life was marked by challenges and difficult decisions that revealed her unique courage. From her early days, Mihal showed courage by challenging the cultural expectations of the time. Despite being the daughter of a king, Mihal did not conform to the typical role of a princess. When David, a brave young shepherd, defeated the giant Goliath, Mihal was impressed by his courage and audacity. Despite her father Saul's opposition, Mihal fell in love with David and chose to support him. This act of courage not only defied social norms but also jeopardized her own safety. However, her courage did not stop in the realm of personal relationships. When her father Saul conspired to kill David, Mihal took bold steps to save her husband's life. She helped David escape through a window and placed an idol in his bed to deceive the soldiers sent by her father. Despite the danger she faced in helping David, Mihal acted with cunning and determination, demonstrating her courage in the midst of adversity. Mihal's courage also manifested in her confrontation with her own father. When Saul married her to another man against her will, Mihal did not give up. Later, when David became king, he demanded that Mihal be returned to him. Although this could have sparked a conflict with Saul, Mihal trusted David and left behind her past life to follow him, once again showing her courage in leaving the familiar for an uncertain future. Number 9. Yael. In the midst of a time of uncertainty and conflict, the story of Yael, a female figure who demonstrated unwavering courage in extraordinary circumstances, unfolds. Her story is woven in the book of Judges, in the heart of a chapter marked by challenges and struggles. Yael, a woman from the tribe of Kenites, found herself in a unique position to exercise her courage. At a time when the nation of Israel was in chaos and facing the threat of the Canaanite enemies, Yael emerged as a beacon of hope. General Sisera, the commander of the Canaanite army, sought refuge in her camp after being defeated in battle. Asking for protection, Yael offered him hospitality and the apparent promise of safety. However, in a moment that could be considered a respite, Yael demonstrated a boldness that few could have anticipated. Seizing the opportunity while Sisera rested confidently and exhausted, Yael took a stake and, with determination, drove it into the head of the enemy general. Her act not only resulted in the death of an opposing leader but also sealed Israel's victory in the battle. Yael's courage not only lies in the act itself but also in the cultural context and personal risk she assumed. In a time when gender roles and expectations were strict, Yael defied those limitations. Her bold action not only helped liberate her people but also challenged conventional notions of what women were capable of doing. Number 8. Naomi. Naomi emerges as a beacon of courage and perseverance in the midst of life's storms. Her story, narrated in the book of Ruth, reveals a courage that goes beyond the surface and delves into the depths of adversity and loss. Naomi, whose name means pleasant or sweet, is presented as a woman who lived in turbulent times in the history of Israel. She experienced a series of heart-wrenching trials, starting with the famine that forced her, along with her husband and 2 sons, to migrate to the land of Moab. There, her life became further entangled in the fabric of tragedy when she lost her husband and later, her 2 sons. Despite the devastating blows, Naomi did not allow herself to be consumed by despair. Her courage lay in her ability to stand firm and adapt to changing circumstances. When she decided to return to Bethlehem after hearing that the famine had subsided, it was a declaration of her determination to face the unknown and rebuild her life. The bond between Naomi and her daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah, also reveals her courage and compassionate heart. When Naomi urged her daughters-in-law to return to their homes after the death of their husbands, it was an act of sacrifice and selfless love. Naomi wished the best for them, even if it meant being alone in her grief. Ruth, the daughter-in-law who chose to stay with Naomi, became a symbol of fidelity and mutual support in difficult times. Naomi's story is not only a testament to her courage in the face of adversity but also to her ability to find redemption and restoration. Through family ties and Ruth's unwavering love, Naomi experienced divine grace and blessings that changed the course of her life. Her story culminated in the genealogy that led to the birth of King David and eventually, the birth of Jesus Christ. Number 7. Rahab. Rahab, a promiscuous woman from Jericho, rises as an inspiring example of how courage can emerge in the most challenging circumstances. Rahab, who lived during the time when the Israelites sought to conquer the city of Jericho, demonstrated courage that transcended her environment. When Israelite spies were sent to scout the city, Rahab risked her life by hiding the spies and providing them crucial information about the city's defenses. Her bold action was not only an act of generosity but also an act of faith in the God of the Israelites, whom she recognized as the true God. The true meaning of Rahab's courage is manifested in her willingness to defy the authority of her own people and her bravery in making a decision that could have had fatal consequences for her and her family. Rahab protected the spies and requested that, when the time for the city's conquest arrived, she and her family would be spared. This act of solidarity and personal courage in the face of adversity shows her ability to see beyond her own situation and aspire to a better life. Rahab's narrative not only highlights her courage but also her transformation. As the city of Jericho fell into the hands of the Israelites, Rahab and her family were protected, fulfilling the promise the spies had made. Rahab, who was once marginalized in her society, became a vital link in the genealogy of Jesus, demonstrating that courage and faith can open unexpected doors and transcend limitations imposed by circumstances. Number 6. Abigail. Abigail stands as a symbol of courage, intelligence, and resolution. Her story, narrated in the first book of Samuel in the Bible, illustrates how the power of wisdom and empathy can change the course of events, even in situations of imminent conflict. Abigail, whose name means source of joy, was married to Nabal, a man described as harsh and foolish. Abigail's courage was revealed at a crucial moment when her husband offended David and his men, who were in a needy situation during their pilgrimage in the wilderness. Despite the serious provocation, Abigail decided to take matters into her own hands, aware of the anger that was brewing. Her courage did not lie in physical strength but in her insight and discernment. Abigail quickly gathered provisions and went to David with humility and respect. Her words reflected a deep understanding of the situation and an appreciation for David's future role as king. In her speech, Abigail not only acknowledged the justice of David's cause but also revealed her conviction that unnecessary bloodshed would not be honored by God. Abigail's courage was manifested in her ability to confront David's anger and his powerful army with wisdom and grace. Her action averted a deadly conflict and instead led to a peaceful resolution. David, impressed by Abigail's audacity and diplomacy, recognized God's hand in her intervention and refrained from retaliation. Number 5. Esther. The story of Esther is a captivating tale of courage, determination, and leadership in the midst of adverse circumstances. Appearing in the book bearing her name in the Bible, Esther emerges as an inspiring example of how a woman can make a difference in crucial times. Esther, a young Jewish woman, found herself in the heart of the Persian Empire, where King Xerxes ruled with authority. Esther's beauty caught the king's attention, and she was chosen as his queen, but her true valor was manifested when her people, the Jews, faced a deadly threat. Haman, a high official in the court, devised a plan to exterminate the Jews, putting Esther at a crucial crossroads. Esther's courage lay in her willingness to risk everything for her people. Despite her position in the royal palace, she was not blinded by luxury or comfort. Instead, she recognized the pivotal moment she was in and decided to take action. However, approaching the king without an invitation was a risky act that could result in death unless the king extended his scepter as a sign of acceptance. In an act of courage and trust in her faith, Esther decided to face the danger. Wearing her finest clothes, she stood before the king, and to her relief, he extended his scepter, granting her permission to speak. Esther not only shared her Jewish identity but also revealed Haman's sinister plan. Her courageous intervention led to the annulment of the extermination order and the downfall of Haman. Esther showed that courage is not just about defying physical danger but also about facing the unknown and fighting for what is right. Although she could have remained silent to preserve her position in the palace, she chose to sacrifice her own safety for the benefit of her people. Esther embodied the idea that, at times, courage arises from the hearts of those who recognize the importance of taking a stand and making a difference. Number 4. Deborah. Deborah stands out as an iconic figure of leadership and courage. Her story is found in the book of Judges in the Old Testament, where her roles as a prophetess, judge, and military leader place her prominently in the biblical narrative. Deborah lived in a time of challenges and conflicts in Israel. Under her leadership, the people of Israel found direction and unity in times of difficulty. As a prophetess, she had a close connection with God, through which she provided guidance and wisdom to the people. Her influence extended not only to religious matters but also to political and military affairs. One of the most notable episodes in Deborah's life was her leadership in the battle against the Canaanites under the command of Sisera. With courage and determination, she urged Barak, an Israelite general, to lead the troops into battle. Her famous victory hymn, recorded in the 5th chapter of the book of Judges, celebrates Israel's triumph over its enemies and the notable participation of various figures, including Yael, the courageous woman who drove a stake into Sisera's head. Deborah's courage is not only reflected in her military role but also in her ability to break the social norms of her time. Her leadership in a patriarchal society is a testament to her determination and conviction in her divine calling. Her wisdom and discernment are also evident in her decisions and counsel. Number 3. Hannah. Hannah stands as a beacon of courage and unwavering faith. Her story is intertwined with the powerful message of perseverance and trust in God, and her emotional and spiritual courage distinguishes her as an enduring example of feminine strength in the Bible. Hannah experienced the painful affliction of infertility, a particularly heavy burden in a culture where motherhood was considered a sign of divine blessing. However, instead of allowing herself to be consumed by sorrow or despair, Hannah chose to channel her distress into prayer. With courage, she prostrated herself before God in the tabernacle, pouring out her heart and tears before the Most High. Her courage not only lay in her ability to express her emotions before God but also in her persistence. Year after year, Hannah returned to the tabernacle, crying out for a child. Her unshakable faith and emotional courage drove her to keep her hope alive, even when it seemed that all doors were closed. Hannah's courage reached its peak when she made a special vow to God. She promised that, if God granted her a son, she would dedicate him to divine service. Her brave commitment reflected her willingness to give of herself and trust that God would fulfill his promise. Eventually, her prayer was heard, and she conceived Samuel, who would become an influential prophet in Israel's history. Hannah was not only courageous in her personal struggle but also in her ability to celebrate God's blessings. After giving birth to Samuel, she fulfilled her vow and brought him to the tabernacle to be raised in the presence of God. Her courage lay in her willingness to part with her son for the sake of fulfilling her vow, trusting that God would care for and guide Samuel's path. Number 2. Ruth. The story of Ruth, an inspiring figure from the Bible, highlights her unwavering courage and loyalty in times of adversity. Despite the challenges she faced, her story is a moving testament to inner strength and the ability to transform adversity into opportunity. Ruth emerged from the pages of the Bible as a woman who radiated courage from the beginning. When her husband, brother, and father-in-law died, leaving her with her mother-in-law, Naomi, she faced the difficult choice of staying in her homeland or accompanying Naomi to a foreign land. However, her courage shone through as she made the decision to stay with Naomi, declaring, "Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." Book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 16. This declaration of loyalty transcends time and remains a powerful example of Ruth's determination. In the foreign land of Bethlehem, Ruth demonstrated courage by diligently working in the fields to provide for herself and her mother-in-law. Despite difficulties and uncertainty, her resilient spirit never wavered. Ruth's courage did not go unnoticed. Boaz, the owner of the fields where she worked, was impressed by her hard work and character. Ruth not only earned Boaz's respect but also sparked his desire to protect and care for her. Their story of love and loyalty became a testimony to the power of courage to forge deep connections. The culmination of Ruth's courage came when she followed her mother-in-law's advice and sought out Boaz in the harvest field, a bold act in the society of that time. This action marked the beginning of a journey that ultimately led her to become part of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, further underscoring her importance in biblical history. Number 1. Mary Magdalene. In biblical passages, a female character emerges who embodies courage and devotion, Mary Magdalene. Her story unfolds in tumultuous times, and her role is highlighted not only by her presence at crucial moments but also by her unwavering faith and love. Mary Magdalene is presented in the Gospels as a woman who accompanies Jesus of Nazareth in his ministry. Her courage is manifested in her loyalty, as she was among the few who did not abandon the Master during his crucifixion. Standing at the foot of the cross in that moment of suffering and agony shows her courage to face pain and suffering despite overwhelming circumstances. Her courage becomes even more evident in the narrative of the resurrection. Mary Magdalene was the first to arrive at Jesus' empty tomb, witnessing an event that would change the history of Christianity. Her willingness to visit the tomb early in the morning, demonstrating her love and devotion, speaks to her deep commitment to Jesus and his message. Mary Magdalene's courage is also reflected in her willingness to share the news of the resurrection with the disciples. Despite possible doubts or disbelief she might face, she did not hesitate to deliver the message that Jesus had risen. This act shows her determination and faith in what she had experienced. Mary Magdalene defied the social expectations of her time by being a prominent figure in Jesus' story. As a woman who was part of the Master's inner circle, her courage extends beyond specific actions and enters the realm of her lasting impact on the Christian narrative.